Well, it's finally happened. The Owl House has finally ended. And I thought the finale was pretty freaking good. Like, I enjoyed it quite a lot. It's not up right now because I'm fighting a copyright claim, but I do have a watch along, a reaction to the episode up. You'll have to bring your own copy of the episode to watch along with us, but it was pretty fun. I was a little overloaded by the end of it though, and had to duck out pretty quick to go collect my thoughts. But I think this finale was basically everything that I hoped it would be. Watching it, there was never really any big moment where I'm like, oh hey, this is a huge surprise that this happened. There were definitely things that, like, the exact shape that they took were different than I expected them to be. But all the big events, I think we all knew that all the big events here were gonna happen in some way, shape, or form. And that's not a bad thing at all. I want to be clear about that. I said that during the watch along too, and I think some of you guys took that as a negative. I don't mean it as a negative. This show is consistent enough and was set up well enough that we expected the finale to play out the way that it did, and were therefore allowed to just be there for the ride and enjoy the ride. And that's good. That speaks to the care that the writers put into crafting this story and world for us. But even then, there was some stuff here that I didn't expect to happen in exactly the form that it did. It made sense once it did. None of it was like these weren't twists for the sake of being twists, right? But like, I mean, there's a ton of examples of things that just come back up in this episode. Like a couple of my favorites were when Luce is finally dealing the not literally the final blow, but when she's defeating Belos, when she's delivering her final blow to Belos, the I am the good witch Luce thing, it comes up again. That's been, like, I think it was I am the good witch Azura the first time she said it. But that's popped up multiple times throughout the course of the show. That was something we got to see, like proper glyph magic. Like, by putting all the glyphs onto himself, Belos created a version of this. And it was a thing that we always kind of suspected could happen since the moment that glyph magic became a thing. And we got to see it, and it was majestic. Rain and their ability to do fantastic magic with any amount of sound was integral to this episode. And the whole idea that the collector was going to be redeemed by effectively just watching the show. Like, that's basically literally what happened. It's just, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun seeing all of these setups get paid off and these fan ideas get confirmed. And it was still fast-paced and exciting. And did everything that it needed to do. There are still things that I wanted it to do that it didn't seem like it had the time to do. But it still did everything that it needed to do in the time allotted. Like, I know finales of shows tend to be pretty underwhelming in general just because our emotions get tied up in the show and we don't want it to end unless it ends in a way that perfectly satisfies our ideal, you know? So, like, this one might have just really lined up with my ideal. But I think this was one of the more satisfying show finales I've ever seen in my entire life. It was just good all around. If there was anything here that I feel like should have been done better, this episode's broken up into 3 parts. You have the redeeming the collector part, then you have the versus Belos part, and then you have the epilogue part. And that redeeming the collector part, I feel like it definitely could have been expanded upon. I feel like this could have been an arc of at least a few episodes, and there would have been enough content to like fill them out satisfactorily, and we would have gotten to know the Collector really well, because we get to know him just kind of a little bit over the course of like the last episode a little bit, but then like over the course of this first act of this one, and he's a likable character. Like, he's definitely scary and definitely dangerous. He's everything that we thought he was, but he's also a few things that we suspected he was too. He's very definitely a child. He was very definitely abandoned by the rest of his kind for whatever reason. We don't really get a reason, but like, would he have the reason? He's a child. He probably wouldn't even really understand. And because of the nature of what he is, he doesn't have an understanding of how things work for everybody else. He doesn't understand that what he's doing to people is actually harming them. It's up in the air whether or not he even realizes they're people until a specific moment happens that kind of solidifies everything in his mind. When Luce effectively dies, like spoiler alert, sorry. And she'd already alluded to the fact that, man, he does not understand what death means for mortals. And then he's not able to just put her back together, like reconstitute her or whatever. And it clicks for him. This is permanent. I mean, it's not in her specific case, but for the most part, it's permanent. And holy crap, she really did want to be friends with these people. Because his whole backstory is his species sent him to learn about the Titans. He became friends with the Titans, but learned that Titan magic was stronger than theirs. That it could be used to negate their powers, which scared the others, so they united to wipe out the Titans, which caused a miscommunication between him and the Boiling Isles Titan, where the Boiling Isles Titan thought that he was the one responsible for all of it, and sealed him away at the cost of his own life, meaning that he accidentally, because of this misunderstanding, contributed to the genocide of his friends. And now he has the chance to make new friends and not be alone, because here's King, another Titan, somebody that like his powers don't really work on Titans again. So like he can't just force him to do what he wants. He has to make friends with this person. And these people that King cares about are there too. And he wants to be friends with them. For real. Not just he doesn't just want to puppet them around. And then he loses one of them. And it all just kind of clicks in his head, and it makes sense. The sequence of events, the reasoning behind everything, it makes sense. It happens very fast though. And like, yes, the implication is the foundation for this was laid throughout all of his interactions with King off screen. In the greater context of the previous episode, but we didn't get to see that either. It makes sense that these things happen. There was definitely room for them to happen. But because we don't get to see it, we feel like we've missed out on something. But the fact that even as he is losing his powers, as a result of the same attack that took Luce, he still runs off to try to help the people that he's wronged, proves how cool a guy he is, and it really helps you to warm up to him faster than you would have otherwise. It's a very cool moment, built off of something that could have been less underwhelming. While still good, it could have been more. I feel like, though, if they did have to kind of condense down the stuff with the Collector, and like I say, if, they definitely did. A lot of the interactions between Ida, Luce, and King and the Collector were given to us in montage form, so clearly there was some condensing down that had to happen there. But I feel like if that's the case there, the stuff with Belos and his possession of Rain and the use of their body to reach the Titan's heart after the realization that the Titan's probably not actually dead yet, and that he could possess its body and become virtually unstoppable, and then the fight that happened as a result of that, and the stuff with Luce and Papa King, or whatever we're calling him, in the in-between world, the world that is in between many things, as the Titan says, implying that it also exists between life and death. I feel like all of that, we saw all of that they intended us to see at any stage in the development of the story. Because all of that really could have fit in like one finale-length episode of a regular season. The pacing of it felt a little more natural, and it had that finale episode, the Owl House budget look to it. And so that section felt a little more satisfying to me, just generally speaking. Again, not that any section of this episode is bad, but this, I think, is the stronger section out of the two that we've talked about so far. Luce's conversation with the Titan, first of all, is just... it's everything that I wanted it to be. If it was ever going to happen in such a direct form, everything from the fact that this is where the Titan's, I guess, soul, essence, power, whatever you want to call it, this is the fact that this is where it's been, that he's been able to use those cubes to watch his son and his son's family all this time. Like, what more could you have asked for? Like, except maybe like, oh, he gets to like come back to life and actually meet King or something, right? It's just so perfect. And I love the way they handle his design. They don't come right out and say it, but they imply that Titans can kind of manifest different versions of their form. So while because Belos kind of does the same thing after he takes over the Titan's heart. He creates a smaller Titan-like body for himself while also working to reanimate the Titan itself, explaining some of the scale discrepancies. Like, what would that castle have been built for? Like, yeah, to hold King's egg, the one that they found King in. But, like, what was all that other stuff in there for? Was it all just for King, or were there supposed to be people there to care for him? Like, who could have built something at that scale if the Titans were all so huge? Well, now, if they can manifest smaller bodies for themselves, like maybe even before they're dead, Titans, like, lay back to create large areas to live on with manifestations of themselves and their kind, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? And we see that because we see Belos do that thing that I said, and we see Papa King, we see, like, his true form, and then, like, his manifested form is different. And it's got stuff on it that he's manifested, like the Bad Girl Coven shirt, and, like, a Hootie-shaped eyepiece. And like, he's got a dad bod and everything, which I don't imagine are, like, true representations of his actual physical form. They're things that he adopted because of how he is seen by his son and how he wants to be seen by his son should his son ever see him. And so they don't come right out and say it, but they imply all this stuff, and it's just so cool. And then we get to see, like, the full potential of someone who understands the language of the glyphs when he gives his power to Luce. He all but turns to the camera and says, yes, I was giving her these glyphs to learn because I liked her and how she interacted with my son, and I trusted her, which is all but turning to the camera and saying, and I did not let Belos find them if I could help it, which confirms that pretty obviously. And we even get to see something of the full power of a Titan in the power that Luce wields, except that she still wouldn't have a full understanding of that language. So a Titan would still be even more powerful than that. And he leaves a message for his son. It's so good. It's such a good scene. And the resulting fight is so good because Ida and King actually fight long enough for Luce to get back. And then when Luce isn't used to just calling magic out of her will, like a proper Boiling Isles witch would, Ida stands with her and helps her with the casting, lends her knowledge and her talent to this power that her student now wields. We also get to see in action the fact that we learned I think it was in the previous one, wasn't it? Yeah, it had to have been. That Titan magic can counteract collector magic when something as simple as the light glyph is enough to shut down his weird puppetry spell. We also technically got to see new forms of all three of the main characters here, because King puffs up and gets a little bigger when he starts channeling his full power to fight Belos, and Ida transforms into a hybrid version of the Owl Beast that is way closer to what the Owl Beast used to look like when it would fully take over her body, but even more extreme than that. It was, and Luce's new form, it's all just very badass. It's all really great. And I guess it felt a little fanficky, all of this stuff happening all at once, in such a direct way, happening how so many of the fans wanted it to happen. It feels a little like fan servicey. Fan servicey is the word I'm looking for. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing. We wanted to see these cool things happen because we love this world and these characters. And if our desires influenced in any way the shape that this final episode took, I still believe this is where they would have taken the story anyway. Just maybe the specifics might have been different. But at the very least, these showrunners, they care about what we want out of this story. Unlike something like the showrunners of Game of Thrones, for example, who went out of their way to change story beats to defy the expectations of their viewers. Or more recently, the WandaVision series did that too. And the finale was worse for it. But I don't think that's what happened, though. I don't think they we're actively fan servicing us. We were just right about what was going to happen, about where this was going to go, about how it was going to go down, because the show is so consistent that we were able to make those predictions. And then the final section of the episode, the epilogue section, showing us, again, maybe not in the detail I would have liked, but at least showing us the reunions and the interactions between characters that we had wanted to see reunited and we had wanted to see interact with each other basically since the inception of the series. And then giving us a jump to the future that didn't make things feel so final that we can't still dream about where these characters might go, but instead opened up possibilities for new stories to be told, either by fans, and probably by fans, or by this crew again if they get the chance at some point in the future. It was so beautiful. And there are so many things that come back up here in this epilogue. Like when we jump ahead and we see the college-age designs of all of the kids. And they've all got matching tattoos of Flapjack. And Hunter has a new talisman that he, I would assume, made himself. It's a blue jay now, and according to Dana's Twitter, is called Waffle, or Waffles, maybe. And it's everything we hoped these characters would get. Everything that we hoped would happen to them. They stay friends. They have their bond is as strong as ever. Hunter gets a happy ending. He's clearly with Willow, which good for him, because Willow, best glow up of the entire cast, 100%. She's super cute. and then they confirmed some of my favorite fan theories that one, that the magic does come directly from the Titan. So without him, with him being finally 100% dead now, glyph magic's gone. But King is a Titan, and as he gets older, new glyphs will start to come into being, and Luce can learn them all over again with her little brother, who will someday be her big brother. And it's so perfect, because now we have I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking, man, what adventures could they tell in a world where Luce is going to college at Ida's college in the Demon Realm, her college of wild magic, and learning these new glyphs with King. Like, can't you just imagine the series that would be? The kinds of stories they would tell. It's so perfect. It's such a perfect setup. There's going to be like a million fanfics about this exact premise, probably by tomorrow. I'm not even kidding. And there's just so much. There's so many other details that are just thrown in there. Even like the very last scene of the show, where everybody looks up at the sky and says bye to the collector as he passes by to visit, which is all just an excuse for all the characters to look up at us and say goodbye to us. Even going beyond stuff like that, that's blatant fan service at that point. Let's not kid ourselves. There's other stuff in here. There's like the coven sigils or whatever they're called. And we see that they're able to be removed now, which is something that the fandom has wanted to see since we found out how horrible those were. We wanted them not to be a thing. Now they're not going to be. We get to see Hunter is taken in by Darius. And it's super cool because we saw that instant bond there, that the potential for that bond there. And the fact that that was intentional and that it happens, that we see it happen, it's a big deal. And there's so much more, and I realize I'm just listing things at this point. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to move on. There's so much more. I'm probably going to do a video on that. Also probably going to do a video on stuff that I was hoping would get touched on that wasn't. But stuff that was like objectively less important for the conclusion of the narrative. But some stuff that was not touched on that I wish had been. Maybe speculate about that stuff a little bit. But yeah, I'm getting super rambly at this point. Like, there's not much else to talk about. Was there anything in these that we didn't need? Maybe the subplot about Belos being possessed by, or Rain being possessed by Belos. Got that backwards in my head for a second for some reason. Maybe that didn't need to be here. Maybe they could have written a different way for Belos to get to the heart. Because we did cut back to that enough times that it did eat into the time that the show could spend on other stuff. But, like, Belos needed a way to get to the heart anyway. Like, that's the thing that had to happen for this finale to happen. But he also needed a way to interact with the Collector and observe the Collector and talk to the Collector. And so possessing one of the Collector's puppeted people, like that made sense as a way for him to do that. And we care about Rain. Like, the fandom loves Rain. So obviously they're the perfect choice for Belos to possess out of people for Belos to possess, because not only are they a fan favorite, but they're also strong enough to help in that final struggle against him. I guess also the final struggle against him after they kind of get past Kaiju Belos, because they don't like fully ever fight Kaiju Belos, which I guess is a little mildly disappointing. But I guess the final struggle against him, like it was like his weird blob people rushing at them and getting blasted apart while Luce like yanked his real body out of the heart. There wasn't like the big dynamic, almost martial arts anime-esque kind of wizard duel that we've gotten a couple other times. Maybe something like that would have been a little bit more visually interesting. But the fact that by the time he was beaten, Belos, in and of himself, was this pathetic blob of a thing, not only is it's like super symbolic of the kind of person he is, but it led to the end of the character, which I'm not going to spoil for you guys, because it's one of the best things about the episode, because God, he deserved it. I also thought it was very funny when, immediately after they tell the Collector that, no, making friends is different than just forcing people you can't brain control to do what you want some other way. It's about, like, kindness and forgiveness or whatever. That they looked... It felt like Dana walked into frame, looked at us and said, those of you who wanted Belos redeemed are dumb. Because, like, the Collector, he flies up and he's like kindness and forgiveness to Belos, and Belos just kind of stares at him, and the others just kind of stare at him Like, what are you doing, kid? No, not him. Literally anybody but him. It was cute. It was a cute moment. The entire episode was full of cute moments or epic moments or satisfying moments as a fan. Like, moments that satisfied me personally. I don't know. I just don't... Like, there's different specifics that could have happened here. It could have taken a different specific shape. But I think this thing that we got as the finale to this show, like, considering that it had to happen this way, that this was the best we were ever going to get. We were never going to get a final, like a real final season. I don't think there's anything more that I would have wanted this to be. Anything, if they had tried to do anything more, they would have risked bogging it down. And, while some of the moments were maybe moments that we didn't need, like little chances for the story to slow itself down like that, they just make it more impactful when it picks back up, you know? So, like, at worst, it works really well. At best, it's just extremely excellent. It's the best version of what we could have gotten. And the implied world, the world that they set up post that epilogue time skip, where travel between the human realm and the demon realm is a regular thing, and the characters get to live in whichever place is best for them and still interact with each other. Like, I can think of another recently ended Disney show that needed an ending closer to that for its ending to really be as satisfying as fans wished it would be. I'm talking about Amphibia, obviously. Like, I really do think the dynamic of the way people live, the way that these characters live now, after that time skip, is really the best version of that we could have gotten. It's everything that I wanted, and more. Like, they did stuff there that I never expected. Like, Eda getting her own school is, like, I don't think I would have asked for that, but seeing it not only makes so much sense, but it's all I've ever wanted. That, and the fact she has a hook hand now, which is just, like, perfect. It's perfect. There's never going to be another show like this. There's just not. And they did the absolute best they could with it in this final season. I have no complaints. I have more to say, but those things that I have to say are not complaints. So, yeah, that's the review. I don't trying to be more like critiquey, but there's nothing really else to critique. So let's just move on with it, I guess. If you guys have seen the final episode of The Owl House, Watching and Dreaming, which, along with the titles of the other two episodes, the first words of those titles make "Thanks for watching," which is super, super adorable. If you have seen it, what do you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, and share it with anyone else who you think would enjoy my content. Subscribe if you haven't. Also, you can, while you're down there in the comments, let me know what about this show you still think needs to be talked about, because that'll help me determine what kind of content you guys want to see about the show going forward. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.